What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here with your Packers Daily Chat for Cheesehead TV. Wherever you are on the internet, we're devoted to you guys, Green Bay Packers fans worldwide. The Super Bowl is over, the Patriots are champions, and everybody's undefeated. Well, not exactly. Patriots officially get to marinate in this until March 13th when the new league year kicks off. But for all practical purposes, we're all 0-0 again. So, kiss 2018 goodbye. The Packers look forward to 2019, including an appearance by their quarterback at the NFL Honors on Saturday night, saying he did not opt for surgery on that troublesome knee. Instead, going with a routine that he has used before, according to Rodgers. So it will be interesting to see how that develops throughout the offseason. Sure sounds like he'll be ready to go April 1st when the Packers report. That is 2 weeks earlier than normal. Because they have a new coaching staff, they are allowed to report early. So the off-season work will begin in Green Bay earlier than most seasons, at least in the recent past. Good to see everybody on the chat. Nice to see everybody chiming in. I missed who the handle was who posited the idea that the Saints would have given the Patriots a better run for the money. I tend to agree. But as we know, the controversial end of that Rams-Saints game put the Rams in there, and then Belichick proceeded to school Sean McVay in front of an audience of millions. Were the Pats really considered underdogs this year? Did I miss something? Well, Julian, I think they had a rough go of it, much more so than in past seasons. That early loss to Detroit, that mid-season blowout in Tennessee. It's not like this was the Patriots team of old. And I think what they really did well was kind of adjusting midstream. I think they've changed their identity 3 times throughout this season. Most notably, after losing Josh Gordon, they really buttoned things up, ran a lot of power, and played smart, aggressive defense. And obviously that has been their MO throughout the years in regards to the type of team they are at the beginning of the year is rarely the type of team they are at the end. But that said, they certainly look shaky throughout this season. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you they are underdogs. I never considered them as such because they have Belichick and Brady, and as long as those two guys are in New England, I think they can't be considered underdogs. They're just too good at what they do. They're too smart, and they execute too well. But you certainly can't look throughout this season and say there weren't cracks in the veneer at times. Which game did you enjoy more, the Rams-Chiefs shootout or their Super Bowl? Whew, Kent, that's a really good question. Probably the Super Bowl, and I know that is probably in the minority opinion, but the Rams-Chiefs, I believe that was a Monday night game. To me, that was just boring. People running up and down the field like a video game. If I wanted to watch that, I'd watch someone play Madden. But to me, last night's game, you saw amazing defense being played on both sides of the ball. The fact that the Rams have to lose that game after Wade Phillips puts together an excellent game plan on his defensive side. The line play on both sides, I thought was excellent. And I enjoyed it a lot. Now, I totally understand the lack of big plays, the lack of explosion on offense, put a lot of people to sleep. Totally get it. It's not for everybody, but I enjoyed it. Think Flores follows suits with all the other Bill Belichick disciples and not be successful? No, I don't, actually. I think he will be successful. I don't have anything to base that on other than a hunch, but it's the first time in a long time that I've thought a Belichick assistant will go on to do good things. So does the not getting the Miami special teams coach already look a bad look for LaFleur? No. They met his price. He didn't want to move his family up to Green Bay. He went to New Orleans. It's that simple. I mean, no one's written that, I guess, in those words put together, but if you piece together the reporting, that's what happened. They had him in the building for a number of days. They were trying to get him to sign. They didn't meet his number when he was in-house. He left. They said, okay, we'll pay you. And he still didn't want to move his family up to Green Bay. And I can't blame the guy. I mean, he's got young kids. All they've ever known is Miami, So he's going to work in New Orleans now and have access, be able to easily get back to the Dolphins, or back to Miami, sorry. So, I don't think that reflects on LaFleur at all. If anything, it reflects on Packers fans who are way too caught up in the nonsense during the silly season of coaches being hired. Things happen, man. Let it play out. Now, who knows? He could end up with the better end of the deal, LaFleur could. Maybe he has a better special teams coach. We don't know. Got to let it play out, man. Instead of having a Pro Bowl, why not have the two losing teams in the conference championship games play each other the week before the Super Bowl? Well, if you could convince the NFLPA to put a bunch of their union members in harm's way for, say, a substantial bit more of a cut of the NFL's pie, revenue pie, maybe that's something they talk about. But I have a hard time believing the PA and the players themselves would agree to a game which essentially amounts to a third-place game. Can't see them going for that. Tom Brady, greatest system QB of all time? Just stop. Was that Joe Montana's a system QB then? Is Bart Starr a system QB? I mean, just relax with all of that nonsense. Tom Brady is one of the greats. I know there are a lot of people who think he's the GOAT. I tend to think that, I will always think that's Johnny Unitas. I think in the modern game, it's Joe Montana. That's just me. Your mileage may vary. But stop with the system stuff. He is amazing. His ability to sit back there, process information, avoid a rush, which is coming for him, knowing where he's going to be. It's not like he's got tons of escapability in the pocket. Don't dismiss him by saying he's a system QB. That's ignorant. Brian Burns is the 12th pick. Woo! Somebody doesn't follow me on Twitter. I keep seeing that, I've seen it mocked a couple of times. Man, I don't know, man. I got a hard time feeling it at 12. Maybe later, but 12 feels a bit rich for me. Hey, no problem. Thanks for asking the question. I answer as many as I can. Is right guard or right tackle a bigger need for the Pack? Right guard, Josh, no question. I know there's a vocal subset of Packer fans who would probably like to cut Brian Bulaga as we sit here, but I think you pay him this year, that last year on his deal. Yes, he'll probably miss a game or two or three, but when he's on the field, he's still one of the better right tackles in the league, especially in pass protection. And I think unless you have somebody, say you find somebody in the draft who's an absolute gem that kind of blossoms in camp and makes him expendable, then maybe. But even then, I think you keep him around just for insurance sake. They're going to have a lot more room to play with in the cap this year. No reason to cut your nose off to spite your face at right tackle. But at right guard, there is absolutely a need. Byron Bell obviously was signed on a one-year deal. He'll set to be a free agent again. It was funny. I was reading Bob McGinn's grades, and I know Bob, I think, wrapped up his grade saying they could do worse than Byron Bell. I mean, I think, yeah, they could do worse. They could do a whole lot better. If the idea is to improve, I don't think he'd bring him back. That's just me. Do we need a return specialist, or is Trevor Davis good enough? Good question. I think they need to find somebody who can contribute not only at returner, but then from scrimmage as well. I think Davis has proven that he is effective as a returner and as a gunner. When he came back from his injury this season, he looked ready to bear and then got hurt again. You do wonder about his durability, his slight frame, no matter how much time he spends in the weight room in the offseason, how much his body develops. It sure looks like his frame is caring about what it can handle, and maybe a little bit too much. I wonder if he's going to be plagued with injury stuff throughout his entire career. I would prefer they try and find someone in the draft who can fit two bills, especially with the amount of talent they have at his natural position of wide receiver. Sure would think it would be good to move on if they were able to. Is Tony Brown the next Tramon Williams? I'm a huge fan of his. He can ball. Planet VHS Horror ! First of all, that's an excellent name. Second of all, I completely agree that the potential is there for Brown to be another Tramon. He's got all the tools. You certainly saw him shine in moments throughout this season. I know a lot of Packer fans were down on him early in the year because of his penalties, but yeah, he runs a bit hot, but all the talent is there. If he can control, get his head right, get him in that program, the offseason program, see what kind of jump he can make from year to one to year two. But the potential, the ceiling is certainly there to have a Tramon-like career. He's got all the tools in the world. I hate the Pats, Nags. I hear you, Mike. Scott, that's an excellent question. Does Gutekunst value running back and middle linebacker like Ted Thompson? That is an excellent question. I would suspect yes, because you look at, this is just a hunch off of 1 year of his work on the roster. It's not like he took any big swings at either one of those positions. Obviously, he did draft Oren Burks, but as far as trying to significantly, quote unquote, upgrade the talent at either one of those spots, he kind of stood pat. Now, that said, that doesn't mean he doesn't value those guys at those positions, but it sure would seem that, again, early returns, that he is in line with Ted Thompson's philosophy. Now, that doesn't mean that if someone's sitting there at 12 that he thinks is an amazing athlete, maybe a good to great player, that he doesn't take that player just because he plays, I would say, inside linebacker. I'd be very, very surprised if he took it back at 12. But with only one offseason to work with, as far as trying to read the tea leaves when it comes to Brian Gutekunst, it's difficult to say. Why can't Aaron Rodgers score 13 points and win playoff games? That is a nice dig, Steven. I like it. I like where your head's at. Lewis should come back. Riley, I would welcome him back. I'm not so sure the Packers would after his comments to Yahoo about Aaron Rodgers, Mike McCarthy, the drama between them. They don't typically like it when guys talk out of school like that. That doesn't mean, it's a new regime, obviously, so maybe they're fine bringing him back, but they tend to be a little bit more conservative up there in Green Bay. I'd be surprised if Lewis was on his way back to Green Bay. Whoever we get, gonna get hurt anyway. For kids, by the kids, breaking it down. All right, let's head over to Twitter, see what's going on the old tweet machine. Starting off with, say what you want about McCarthy, he showed up against the hoodie. Also, what insane rules will the NFL put in place against defenses because of this Super Bowl? 10 men on defense for third down and a 10-apple rush. Don't give the NFL any ideas, But you can bet after the worst rated Super Bowl, as far as ratings go, since I believe 2009, the NFL not going to be happy. Now, will there be any sweeping changes to the rules, etc.? God, I hope not. We just got off a season where we saw Star Wars-like numbers throughout the entire year. I think the NFL will see this for what it was, and a very old, one of the best to ever do it coaches, basically taking a young guy to school, which is what we saw last night. When I hear all the conversation about Julian Edelman in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I ask, why isn't Sterling Sharp at all in the conversation? Terrell Davis, Gale Sayers provide clear examples of dominant short careers. Why not Sterling? Well, with Davis, obviously the thing is he got a Super Bowl championship, 2 of them. So that obviously bolsters him. And he played a little later, which means that, in this day and age of immediacy, recency bias, the internet driving things in cycles and short spurts, and people, the Hall of Fame voting comes around again and everyone gets active online about it, et cetera, et cetera. That gets in guys' minds, whether they want to admit it or not. And there just isn't much of a groundswell for Sterling. You do hear some very informed, reasoned people in and around football. Every time the Hall of Fame conversation comes up, you always have somebody saying, what about Sterling Sharp? And for me, obviously, someone who watched every single down he played of his professional career, he's a no-brainer Hall of Famer in my book. I don't think there's any question. If you actually watch him play the game of football in the NFL, he was a man among boys. He was a legitimately once-in-a-lifetime player, a great talent, who was, as you all know, unfortunately, had his career cut short and probably will never be given the recognition he's due. But yes, 1,000,000,000%, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Free agent guards taken in 2018 were not great. That's saying it lightly. Is it likely that the Packers will try to find others in draft worth taking a chance on Chance Warmack at free agency? Well, let's see if he hits the market, first of all. I think it's a possibility, though I would tend to believe they would go to the draft probably on the second and third days. They'll look to keep mining that pipeline that they've kind of created when it comes to finding college tackles that they can turn into guards. They've been very successful eyeballing talent later in the draft that they can plug in and make decent, if not good to great players. Obviously they really hit it when they had Sitton and Lang. Recent examples, not so great, but they've certainly come with some serviceable guys later in the draft. Maybe they're looking to find something a little earlier in the draft that they can turn into a viable starter. I'd be surprised if they overpaid for anybody in free agency. And the thing is if you're even middling to fairly talented in free agency, you're going to get a lot of money. You're probably going to get overpaid, and I don't see the Packers being the team to do that. The offensive line talent is so scarce in this league at the moment. Teams with a boatload of cap space are going to be able to really blow other teams out of the water if they want to get offensive line help. Felipe says, I miss Janice. So you're the one. All right, let's head back over to the live chat. Let's see what's up. NFL 100 commercial had no current or former Packers. I know, Mohammed. What's up with that? I have to think it's something about when they chose to film it. They had that huge collection there. I was kind of surprised Favre wasn't involved, but I'm sure Favre took a pass. Aaron was probably off in New Zealand doing whatever it was he was doing down there, and then in Hawaii. So I tend to think they just weren't around. But yeah, it was a notable omission, especially when you've got the Bears represented, the Lions represented. I mean, can't get a Packer in there? It's unfortunate. Who is this guy? He don't know more than me. Why am I here? Because I'm here to teach you how to type. You don't capitalize the start of every single word, buddy. Come on. Typing 101. Was 2018 a contract year for Geronimo, or will he be back? He'll be back unless something miraculous happens. He is a restricted free agent. The Packers control his rights for one more year. They'll have to put some kind of tender on him. I'll be very, very surprised if he's not in Green Bay in 2019. It was great seeing the Favre Rodgers friendship on display at the NFL Honors. I completely agree, Jesse. Can you imagine, go back in your mind to where you were when all the drama of 2008 was happening, right? And then fast forward to this day, and just, could you ever imagine this day would arrive? Because I certainly couldn't. I mean, I always thought there would be a thawing and they would be okay, but now they're like buddies, they're hanging out. Rodgers spent some time last offseason on Favre's property, filming a documentary, etc. Like, they're buddies now, like Rodgers said. So, yeah, no, it's great. It's great to see. Great for Packer fans. It's just nice. It's nice to see those two embracing each other. How much for DeMarcus Lawrence? Riley? Too much. A, I'll be surprised if he hits the market. B, if he does hit the market, someone's going to pay him a ridiculous amount of money, way too much for the Packers' blood. Cowboys not letting DeMarcus Lawrence go. Exactly, Sosa. Think Moore will take a step next year? Whew, good question. The one concerning thing when you look at Moore is the drops in preseason and in camp kind of are an extension of what you saw in college. He's got all the talent in the world, but the idea that someone's going to, get better hands in the NFL, that happens, but it's very, very rare. Usually what guys put on tape in college when it comes to drop rate is kind of who they are. And it's rare that they make major changes in the NFL. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but it's a concern. Now, that said, he's got a high ceiling. He's got all the athletic ability in the world. It's clearly why they liked him in the third round, or fourth round, sorry. Was it third? I'm drawing a blank. I'm totally discombobulated. But you like his ceiling. He's got the tools. It's up to him to put it together. When did edge become a position? Christopher, probably about the time that Football Outsiders and Pro Football Focus started championing it. And they're right. I mean, it's a 4-3 defensive end is very different than an edge rusher in a 3-4. But in this day and age, those guys are asked to do so many multiple things. And you see such a confluence of guys with their hands in the dirt and or guys standing up, no matter, regardless of if they're in a 3-4 or 4-3. I think it's smart to say edge versus a 3-4 defensive end, because that's the other thing. Magazines, websites, what have you, we're all listing defensive end. Well, is that a 3-4 defensive end, a 4-3 defensive end? Those are majorly different positions. So, edge. It just works. In Madden, you can trade Nick Perry straight up for a first-round pick. Goot should try that. Timmy, I'll get on the phone with Gutekunst and let him know. Hey, speaking of Madden, for those of you that are members and or patrons on our Patreon page, first, thank you. Second of all, we're going to be introducing a new way that you can support Cheesehead TV here with not only Patreon, but on the website itself. We're going to have a special patron level that you can challenge me to a game of Madden. Now, it's going to be expensive. My time is valuable. But I heard a lot of junk this year about people talking about how much I suck in Madden and how they could beat me and how they just want some time to whoop my ass. And that's fine. That's good. If you want to put your money where your mouth is, I'll give you the time of day. I'll give you the opportunity to play me in Madden. So be on the lookout for that. Be on the lookout for all of our content at Cheesehead TV, here on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you are on the internet. That's where we want to be. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a great night.